We're going to start seated. So just finding our way to a nice comfy seat. We'll have a couple of blankets and a ball handy. And we'll settle in. Let the top of the torso kind of guide the lateral positioning, the anterior posterior positioning of the torso itself. Think about the shoulders almost locking into place and then tilting them until you find a position in which your spinal column feels stacked and at ease. Maybe let your eyes close for a minute here. We'll just find our way towards the mat. There's this villager, kind of a loner who lives towards the outskirts of town. In this remote region, kind of bordering on the Arctic, these very long, drawn out, extended, cold winters. And this villager is out gathering firewood, fallen branches, tinder, to store up for the long, cold winter season. There's a light dusting of snow that has already covered the ground. We'll give ourselves just 30 more seconds here. Check in on how your respiration cycles are feeling within the body. See if they're contributing to a sense of ease, of grounding, of landing here. And eventually, when it feels appropriate for you, we'll allow the eyes to open if they are closed. And with an exhale, let's let our chin tuck down towards our sternum. As the chin settles here, let's just add a little dynamic sway, like you're trying to make a smiley face across the sternum with the chin. So the chin itself is more or less the guide here instead of the top of the head. Think about the chin moving shoulder to shoulder. And feel how the cervical spine is responding to this movement. So we are deep in a state of flexion here as we ask for this rotation. Pay attention to how those vertebrae are responding to the ask. Maybe one more time in each direction. And eventually, when you feel complete, with no rush to make that true, we'll bring the chin back to a neutral lateral alignment and then lift to a neutral plane. And think about resettling the entirety of the spinal column at neutral. Now let's try to create the same thing in the opposite direction. So we're going to go to extension by taking the chin towards the ceiling. And then we're going to draw this big rainbow shape with the chin. This arc across the space in front of us. Trying to keep the cervical spine in this extension energy as we move. And paying attention once again to how the vertebrae themselves are responding to the shape that we put them in and the movement we're asking of them. Maybe one more time in each direction. And again, when you feel complete, with no rush to make that true, We'll bring the chin back to a neutral and then drop it to a neutral plane. And think about setting the torso to neutral, the spinal column to neutral, broadening out across the shoulder girdle. And that's on a neutral plane, work to big full rotations. Just allowing the chin to explore its full rotational capacity here. Trying to think about staticizing the remaining lower than cervical spine portions of the body so that we are as still as can be as we rotate the head through the rotation capacity of the neck. Maybe one more time in each direction. And eventually, bringing the head back to neutral. Pausing to breathe and receive. And feeling the entire length of the cervical spine. Just noting how that area of the body feels here after such concentrated movement. And then let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. So we're going to build a really structurally sound tabletop here. Think about splaying your fingers out wide. Think about creating that foundation of stable stillness. And then send your left foot straight back so the left toe mound can connect with the mat. And really try to pressurize into that heel. Think about driving the center of the calcaneus bone straight back to try to capture some elongation and activity of the high calf insertion. As much energy as we can get into the heel can be really advantaged by energizing down into the finger mounds. And then we'll relax. Let's curl our toes and lift our seat. Real brief down dog here. Just a little bit of exploratory posterior chain expansion. When you feel like you've had enough, we'll come down to hands and knees tabletop. Once again, think about building that structural stability. And then same thing to the second side. The right foot's going to extend back. The right toe mount is going to catch the mat. And we'll energize right through the center of the heel. Energizing down into the finger mounds can really help bring more energy into this expansion. Lay those toes out can help capture more musculature. And then when you feel like you're balanced left to right, the right knee returns to this base position. And one more time, we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way back into down dog. The weight back into the hips. Think about the expansive capacity of the posterior chain. Think about the hamstrings, that high calf space that you've created, and how those two sets of musculature are working. And then we'll relax back to hands and knees tabletop and extend our legs out in front of us for a little staff. Let's just make sure that we have our blankets and our ball handy. We're not going to use them in the moment, but let's get them set up for when we do. So we're going to go from a shelf fold to a hot dog fold. Mine's going to be a little rough. And we'll do the same thing with the second blanket. And then that ball can just be available. And then when you're ready, let's just take ourselves into a traditional seated forward fold. You can bend the knees as much as feels comfortable here. No real reason to not bend the knees. Find your way into a shape that is expansive for you. And we'll just give ourselves 30 more seconds here. Just a nice little hello to the hamstrings. Really pay attention to where within the hamstrings you're getting the most sensation. Even if the hamstrings aren't your primary reception here, think about where in the hamstrings you are feeling the most sensation. And then we're going to walk ourselves back up towards staff. And we'll take our blanket stack and our ball, and we're going to slide that underneath the left hamstring. Just the left hamstring. And we want to be able to create a roughly symmetrical lower body and a nice symmetrical upper body. We're going to take our ball and we're going to search for that spot where we felt the most engagement, awareness in the hamstring on the left side. And we want the right hamstring to be unencumbered by the prop, and we want the left hamstring to be supported, lifted by the prop. And then bring your feet to a 2 fists or maybe slightly narrower stance. And let's head forward into a fold. With the asymmetry in the leg propping, we have some more slack brought into the posterior chain. That left side forced bend offers some more slack. See if you can give that, better way to describe that, give that to the right leg. So can the right leg be a little bit straighter than the left? Doesn't necessarily mean it's laying flat on the mat, but can it be a little bit straighter than the left? So as this villager is out collecting these branches, twigs, this dusting of snow has kind of blanketed everything, made everything cold, made his fingers numb. And he's kind of brushing some snow off of this pile of fallen branches when he sees this very odd glow emanating from just beneath this thin layer of snow. It's very small, but there's a glow, and he digs down and he finds this very small stone, almost pebble-sized. And it is glowing, and not only is it glowing, but it is radiating heat. To the point when he clasps it in his hands, this warmth shoots up in his body. And he puts it in his pocket, and as it gets in his entire being just warms. At the end of the day, after what turns into a very comfortable kind of foraging of firewood, he goes home and he puts this stone in the fireplace. And the entirety of his home is warmed like it would be on a sunny summer afternoon. And his life has changed. We'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds here on this first side. We're just trying to find a little bit more space on that right side, a little bit more straightness in the right leg, so that the work can kind of naturally, passively happen, more or less passively happen on that left side when it feels appropriate for you. Bring our spine back towards vertical. We'll remove the prop from side 1 and bring that over towards side 2. Before we move the props into place, extend the legs, bring them as straight as you can comfortably get them. Bring the left hand behind you, the right hand to the lateral edge of the left hips, and then just offer a nice twist. Just a little unwinding of what we've crafted here. Last 15 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, we'll unwind the spine, bring our propping underneath our right hamstring, and bring that ball to capture the place on the right hamstring that feels the most sensation. And then let's just extend that left leg as straight as we can comfortably get it. It does not need to be straight, but as straight as we can comfortably get it, and head forward into a little bit of an asymmetrical fold. Goal is to keep the upper body as symmetrical as possible. The more anchored and grounded we are across the sacrum and the ilium, the easier that will be. So think about landing at the sacrum. And then just remember, we're trying to bring some more space, some of the slack we have in the right leg now into the left. As we elongate the left leg, the right leg with the ball pressure, just kind of passively and naturally happens. And so this villager's life changed for a multitude of reasons. Number one, for the first time in any winter night, they felt warm all night long. Warm to the point where he ended up cracking the window just ever so slightly so that he could sleep more comfortably. And not only that, but this what appeared to be some type of a magical stone had removed a huge burden from his life. The preparations for winter, the requirement of gathering resources for winter was nearly all-encompassing. And now with this little find, this little tiny stone, those preparations seem to be almost non-required, not important. And so this villager gains freedom back into his life. At the end of that winter, as the bitterness started to rescind towards the newness of spring, that this villager got a note from an old friend, a traveling merchant who would be coming through town and had requested a place to stay. And the villager graciously and eagerly welcomed this old friend into his home. When this merchant arrived, he saw this tiny glowing stone in the fireplace. And he almost exploded with excitement. Unable to control his own vocal tones, he kind of stuttered out, "Is that a sunstone?" And this villager kind of explained he didn't know what it was, but he found it at the start of winter underneath the snow. It was glowing as it glows now, and it was radiating warmth as it radiates warmth now. And this merchant said, that this is truly incredible. This is an item of incredible value. He says, anyone who owns one of these stones could trade it for unknown riches. I couldn't even imagine if someone owned more than one. And eventually the two kind of parted ways. But that thought of the value of this stone started to creep more and more into this villager's mind. Last roughly 45 seconds here on this second side. Remember that we're just trying to bring some length into the left side so that we can let the right side passively expand. Last 10 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring ourselves back up to vertical. We can remove those props, keep them handy, but get them out of the way. Let your spine get vertical. Let the left hand come to the lateral edge of the right thigh, right hand plant behind you, and work your way into a nice twist. Feel that unwinding of the asymmetry we offered. We'll give ourselves 15 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring ourselves back towards neutral. Let's bring the bottoms of the feet together. And just let your hands clasp either on the toe mounds, the ankles, or the shins, whatever feels comfortable. And work yourself forward into a little torso tilt. Whatever the torso tilt is here, it does not need to be massive. Well, we're taking out the hamstrings. We're taking the hamstrings out of the forward fold. And we're looking to just tilt the torso into some space. A little bit of think of this a little bit more of a reset than a forward fold. Trying to bring back bilateral balance to the body. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, we're going to bring our spine back to neutral, and we're going to set up for our last forward fold. of this practice, we're looking to utilize all of the space that we've crafted. So our setup here is going to be the legs as close together as we can comfortably get them, and the knees as bent as we can comfortably bend them. And then we're looking for an arm engagement here. This can be a finger interlock. It can be hands just underneath the either hamstring. It could be an elbow lock, so hand to opposite elbow. It could be a wrist lock. Whatever feels most accessible to you, find your way into that. We're thinking about getting the torso and the thighs as close together as we can comfortably get them. And then we are going to just allow the legs to extend towards whatever extensive capacity is available to us. More important than anything else, in this particular fold, we want our torso and our thighs to be as close together as we can comfortably maintain them. And we're just going to settle in. Be just over a 2-minute fold here. So think about the way in which you're respirating and how that can soften the physicality of your body. And so as this villager parted ways with his friend, and he had been imparted with this new idea of the value of this, the monetary value of this stone. He was well aware of the practical value, but this monetary value of this stone really creeps through his head. And he starts thinking about how he doesn't have a number that would make giving this stone up worth it. But if he found another, that might change things. And now that he doesn't have to look for firewood all summer, he has more time. And so every night he would go out into the forest looking for that faint glow of a sunstone. One night he stumbled upon this little area, again covered up by brush, with this faint glow just beneath the soil surface. He dug down and he pulled 2 of these sunstones from the shallow earth. And he went home and he put them in this velvet bag. Last 15 seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, we're going to slowly bring ourselves back to a vertical spine. Let's grab both of our blankets. We're going to first place the first blanket behind us, running the same direction as the spinal column. The second blanket may or may not be important, but we're going to put that at the top, kind of making a T, just in case your torso is long enough that you need a little extra space. And we'll lower ourselves down onto our props really gently here. We have been in flexion, 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 and now we are transitioning to our first little extension shape. If this feels like it's too much for your spine, just release the props from beneath you and go to a neutral alignment. And we're just going to allow this shape, whichever shape we're in, whether we're in neutral or whether we have this subtle extension, to settle into the body. Palms up is the ideal shoulder placement. And find your way to a nice fluid respiration. And so now this villager has these 2 extra sunstones. And he realizes that while his friend told him that they had great monetary value, he doesn't exactly know to who. He doesn't want to start telling people that he has these things. And he doesn't exactly know what they're worth other than a great deal. And so he just keeps them hidden away in this little velvet bag. And over the course of the summer, he ends up finding a handful more of these sunstones. And he puts them in this little velvet bag. And as the first snow falls and covers the ground with this delicate dusting, he's able to go out a little earlier before dark sets in to look for these glows. And he's starting to get very good at finding these things. He's starting to recognize where they are going to be. And so over the course of the next couple years, he fills up this little velvet pouch. He must have 100, maybe 120 of these things. And he starts to worry about the secureness of this velvet pouch. And so behind his house, he has this kind of rock outcropping that goes up into the hills. And he decides he's going to dig into these rocks to build a vault. Now that he has so much free time and energy, he has the time to do this, and so that's what he does. He painstakingly and laboriously picks his way through this rock wall, eventually creating this open chamber. And he fits these 2 iron doors. They're heavy. They would take an awful lot of work to open once he puts this massive lock on top of the hinge. And he hides the key underneath a floorboard in his house. One day, just a random traveler comes by and asks about this steel door leading into the mountains. And he makes up some excuse that he doesn't think is good enough. And he starts to worry about people watching him open and close this door. So to solve this problem, he drills a tiny little hole that he can deposit these sunstones through, almost like a key drop. And he welds the door shut. Really feeling the curvature of your spine here, the way that your respiration accentuates that curvature. Give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, let's work our way off of the props. Just bringing the knees to a bent position and rolling one direction or the other, whatever side feels most receptive for you. We'll remove our props from the mat, keep them handy. And we're going to roll back onto our spine. Allowing your body just to settle here. And then we're going to end up in a Baddha Sukhasana, so supine butterfly. If you want this to be props, you have those blankets ready. If you don't feel like propping, or you feel like you have enough openness across the medial abductor range, feel free to just let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. Looking for a nice, deep, releasing reset here. Letting your body relax. And then let's add a little depth to our respiration. At the end of each inhale, let's hold our breath in, lungs full, for a 5 count, so that you feel that air within you. And at the end of each exhale, let's do the same. We'll hold the lungs empty for a 5 count. If 5 counts starts to feel like it's too much, just reduce the count. But start with 5 and see if that's possible, so that as you inhale, you pause with the lungs full. And as you exhale, and at the end of the exhale, you pause with the lungs empty. As you get into these moments of pause, see if you can feel through the stillness, through the physical stillness of your body, the autonomous motion, the heartbeat, the circulatory system pumping. Feel the motion within you, even within stillness. And feel your body as it reacts to the stillness, as it releases within this stillness through each cycle of breath. The years passed. This villager became incredibly adept at knowing where these sunstones would be. There would be days or nights where he would find a dozen without much thought or effort. And each time he would find one at the end of the search, he would plop them through essentially this little keyhole, or this key drop, into this vault he created in this mountain. One day he had been working around the house, and the original sunstone that he had warmed things up so much that he had opened all the windows. And he was sitting at his desk, and he had, over the years, tallied every sunstone that he dropped into his vault. And he's looking over his tallies. He was counting it up into the thousands. When out of nowhere, this crow flew in, and it grabbed the glowing stone out of his hearth, this fireplace, and it flew out the other window. And this villager looked up, saw what happened, and he kind of just chuckled to himself. He thought, it was a very smart crow. That night, he built a fire to warm his house for the first time in over a decade. had an old pile of firewood, but it wasn't much. But he also had a vault full of sunstones, so he wasn't that worried about it, other than the fact that he was going to have to open the door he welded shut. It wasn't much of a problem. We'll give ourselves just 60 more seconds here. As it happened, it was that very night he received a word from the friend that told him about the sunstone in the very first place over a decade ago. He was coming back through. He'd be there in a couple weeks. And so he decided he'd wait to open the vault until his friend was there, give him quite a surprise, quite a stir. When it feels appropriate for you, let's bring our knees back to neutral. We can remove the props if we chose to use them from their space by our sides. Let the kneecaps point towards the ceiling and just start a little dynamic sway, just a little exploration of the space around us. Over the course of the next few weeks, as he waited for his merchant friend to return, he burned through the last remaining firewood. And the night started to get quite chilly. When his friend finally arrived, he was shivering, huddled in a corner of his little house. His friend offered him a wool robe. And he kind of shrugged it off with a huge smile and said, "Oh, there's no need for wool around here." And he picked up this huge hammer and this huge chisel to go break the beam seal on this vault. Maybe one more time in each direction. Eventually, we'll bring our knees to neutral. And as the knees settle at neutral, just ask yourself if there's anything that your body needs, if there's anything that your body wants, if there's anything that your body could benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, let's offer that to ourselves now. If we have everything we need, if we have everything we want, if you're ready for some stillness, then let's drift into a shape where we can appreciate some stillness in this practice. And so this villager and this traveling merchant head out behind this villager's house to this vault. And he chisels away the seam that he created, welding the door shut. And he swings the doors wide open so that both of them can see what's inside. Just fully settling into this space. As he opens the doors, he proudly proclaims to his friend, I have no need for your wool because I have enough warmth within these doors to rival the sun. And as the doors swing open, he expects to see this beam of warm light shooting out at him. But inside, there's just a pile of little gray pebbles. And he rushes in and he digs through, and every single stone inside this vault is just a gray pebble. He turns to his merchant friend and he exclaims, I have been robbed. Every stone I put in here was a sunstone. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes. The merchant looks back at him with sad eyes and says, don't you know the reason they're called sunstones is they need to be charged by the sun. And they burn brightest when they're loved and cared for. Movement into your wrists and your ankles. He goes on to say, if they don't get sun for X number of days, they turn into stones. Movement into your elbows, knees, shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of your body moves, and we'll utilize that movement to transition from the shape we're in back into a seat. In the seated space, let your spine get tall, get vertical once again. Let your eyes close once again. Feel the shoulders as your guiding mechanism to align the spine. With your next inhale, let's bring our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that success is not a tally of what you have locked away in the dark, but a measure of the light you choose to live within, and see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste.